കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നഴ്സുകളായിക്കോട്ടെ, ഇന്ത്യ അക്രോസ് ഉള്ള നഴ്സുകളായിക്കോട്ടെ, they are trying to migrate. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബെറ്റർ ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്.
A nurse in India versus a nurse in Germany, UK, US, Australia, the difference in salary, what's your guess? What will be the jump in salary? So the jump is roughly about 20x. So it's about 15,000, 20,000 here. It's about 3 to 3.5 lakhs there. So the entire money has come back. They got the education for free. The visa is free. Their flight tickets are free. Their soft landing is free. The documentation is free. So everything else ends up being free.
ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും അതിശയിക്കുമായിരുന്നു എല്ലാവരും എന്താ ഈ മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നത്. Now I got the answer.
So Germany claims, as per their statistics, that there is going to be a shortage of about 500,000 nurses. 5 lakh nurses will be missing in action in the next 5 to 7 years time. So the German Chancellor was here last year and he said, look, India has got about 20,000, 25,000 visa every year. I'm going to 4.5x or 5x that. In India and also in Kerala specifically, when you're looking at migration, people have the tendency of just cracking the exam.
Exactly.
Ek baar examination is cracked, then I'm done. Then I can go home and sleep well. But the problem does not stop there. Once you crack the examination,
how do we end up in a good job which is not unfair to the nurses, and how do you execute that, how do you make sure that happens?
Just do not go because there's a job of a nurse. What if the job description says that okay, it's a job of a nurse, but you are going to work in a very remote town where there are hardly 5 people living and you have to stay there, and when you're signing up the contract is significantly important. Now where the problem comes, these offer letters are in German, so nobody reads it. How many hours do you think a nurse works here?
Here I have seen nurses working from 18 to 24 hours shift.
In Germany, it's 37.5 hours a week.
Oh, that will be very
7
bad.
hours. 7 hours to 7.5 hours a day.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Unfiltered. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഹോസ്പിറ്റൽസിലൊക്കെ പോകുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് നഴ്സുമാരെ കാണുമ്പോൾ ഒരു മാലാഖമാരെ കാണുന്ന പോലെ ഒരു ഫീലാണ്. ബിക്കോസ് അവർ തരുന്നൊരു കംഫർട്ടും സ്നേഹവും, ഇങ്ങനെ ഇഞ്ചക്ഷൻ എടുക്കാൻ പോകുമ്പോഴാണെങ്കിൽ ഇതിലൊരു ചെറിയ ഉറുമ്പ് അടിക്കുന്ന വേദനയുള്ളൂ എന്നൊക്കെ പറയുമ്പോൾ ഒരു ആശ്വാസമാണ്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്കറിയാം കേരളത്തിൽ നിന്നുള്ള നഴ്സുകളായിക്കോട്ടെ, ഇന്ത്യ അക്രോസ് ഉള്ള നഴ്സുകളായിക്കോട്ടെ, they are trying to migrate. എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണെന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ബെറ്റർ ഓപ്പർച്യൂണിറ്റീസിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്. പക്ഷേ യൂഷ്വലി ദേ എൻഡ് അപ്പ് ഇൻ വിസ സ്ട്രഗിൾസ് ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, ഫിനാൻഷ്യൽ ട്രാപ്സ് ആയിക്കോട്ടെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അൺഫെയർ ആയിട്ടുള്ള ജോബ്സിലായിരിക്കും അവർ സെറ്റിൽ ചെയ്യപ്പെടേണ്ടി വരുന്നത്. സോ ജോയിനിങ് us today is someone who is trying to change this landscape. Let's welcome Mayank, co-founder of Abroad and BorderPlus. Hello, welcome to the show.
Thanks
How
for
are you?
having me here today, and lovely, very excited to be sitting next to you and talking about this issue.
Thank you so much for coming here, and it's a very intense, according to me the topic is very intense because it's a very huge market actually, because the business opportunity is really great compared to the agencies. But it is unfair. Most of the time it's unfair for the nurses who is trying to migrate. So if you are trying to change the system and to give a better opportunities to the nurse, it's a very, very good thing to do. So let's start by talking, how did you find out this gap? What is happening? How was the realization I can do something in this field?
See, but I've been in the space of education, skilling and talent for my entire career, and I think that's the space that I've seen. And one of the things that, while I've done a lot of work of training and helping people in the IT, technology, AI space, I always want to do something in the blue collar workforce or grey collar workforce, slightly different income category folks out there. And when you go there, what you realize is that their income in India is capped.
Yeah.
So a nurse, for example, in India will earn about 15, 20,000, 30,000 rupees. A plumber will earn maybe 10, 15,000 rupees. A truck driver will hardly make his ends meet, etc. So I was looking at an opportunity where I felt that, look, India is the youngest population and will continue to be a very young population for a very long time. So average age in India is about 30 years old. If you go to US and UK, it's about 40. If you go to Germany, it's 47. If you go to Japan, it's 51. So when you look at that economy, you realize that, look, Indian talent has to go abroad. And Indian talent will continue to go abroad. So that was one thought process that, look, India is a young country. Every other country is aging. The second thing, everybody then said, look, if you're doing this, then it's brain drain. Because people say, oh, why are you taking talent from India outside? And yeah, we know that we have all the CEOs who are coming from Indian background, Indian origin. So I'll give you one statistics. India has got about 35 million Indians living abroad, 3.5 crores living abroad. They send about $125 billion worth of remittance back to India. And Kerala is the number one state in remittance. It accounts for about 20% of the about 10% over, 20% of the overall remittance is coming to Kerala, and Maharashtra, the number one, number two state. Now, that $125 billion is equal to our entire oil import that the country does. So the Indians who are going abroad are actually sending money back. So for me, the fact that India is a young population with a lot of skilled talent pool, globally everybody is aging, and in the process of that there's a huge remittance coming in. Why not build a platform which can solve for that problem? So the macro was very good. Then, as you rightly said, we started looking at the micro. What happens at the basic level? We realize there's no transparency. People just end up paying something, they don't receive the services. When they do something, they don't realize how hard the process is going to be. When they land up, what was told is not what happens. So there's a lot of lack of trust in that space. And we said, can we create a trusted platform that will enable Indian talent to look at international opportunities, thus giving them a better quality of life, thus getting a better remittance back to the country, but do it in a manner that is very trustworthy and nobody runs away and takes away the money and sort of get out and say, okay, thank you very much, I took the money, now I don't have to do anything. So that's how the idea came into thought process, plus a lot of meetings with people. I mean, usually you have some one or two anecdotes that drive you, but at a macro level, that was the reason for starting up with this idea.
Is there any particular incident or an experience from a nurse or any particular person in the certain field that inspired you to do this?
No, I think the many, as part of being in the education space, you see many life-changing experiences. I think the one such that came to my incident, I'll take two sides of the story. I think one side of the story was when I was researching this space, we're talking to multiple nurses and what they're doing. So I met this nurse who is from Kerala, shifted to Mumbai to join a hospital. And the family comes from not so wealthy background, and for them this was the best that she could get, and she was earning about 25 to 30,000 rupees a month. Her stay was little bit subsidized, but was not able to save enough. She was still trying to send 5,000 to 6,000 rupees back home to her parents. And when you speak to her parents, it was a very different experience altogether, because they don't come from the wealthiest of the families. Meeting the household income was not easy. I think mother was a housewife, father was still working, but not with a guaranteed stream of income or a steady stream of income. When I met her and she was studying German to sort of go abroad, the very fact that she was so excited to land up in an international geography, because she felt that, Mayank, if I can land up there, imagine I can send back 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees back home. It was a small thing. But then the more we started talking, I think sometimes when you talk to some people, they automatically break down. And she broke down and she realized that, look, it's not just about sending 50,000 or 1 lakh rupees. It's about sending that, and then my family's siblings, their education will be taken care of. My parents will have a better life. My parents will have a better outcome. So it's not just one family that life changes. It's the entire family's, one individual life change does not happen, but the entire family life changes happen. So I think that was one or two incidences of those sort was so touching. And then you know this very well because you are also from India. You meet a lot of people. But then I went to Germany. And this was again a very interesting point that you landed up in a clinic. Now this clinic has about 100 beds. And only 80 were filled. I said, look, why is 80? Why not 100? And all those were old age homes. So I asked these folks, why not 100 rooms? Why only 80 rooms? He said, we can put in for the remaining 20 rooms, we have a wait list of about 70, 80. But we don't have nurses here. And then when you spend some more time, you know that all of them there are at the age of about 75 to 80. 90% of them are women. And they all know that in the next 6 months to a year or 2 years, that's the life that is left with them. So they are playing on this thing that, look, in 6 months time, I'm going to go away. And they're not able to get the care that they deserve. And that's why it hit me also that, look, if these guys want care and in Indian life will change significantly, why not play the role of bridging the gap? And I'll leave you with one last statistics that Japan, I told you, is an average of 51. Last year in Japan, 45,000 people died alone at home. And 4,500 were found 1 month after they passed away. So nobody got to know that they died, they passed away. And that's where you feel that everybody deserves care. And if we can do so, that's a win-win for both the sides of the ecosystem.
But I actually thought that, I'm sorry to say this, the development will also should be added by the healthcare that is provided in a country, right?
Yeah.
And that's very sad to know 45,000 people have died at their home. And
And there's no talent because, look, I mean, people don't want to take up that job there. There are not enough people at that age group. So more people are retiring, less people are joining. The people who are joining, they don't want to take up nursing, for example, as a career option. And that is what we have to just believe, Aparna, that India does not have too many natural resources. We don't have oil, we don't have coal, we don't have minerals. Our biggest natural resource are people.
Yeah, the empathy, I guess.
And that's the thing that we have to find a way that if we have to be the global talent capital of the world, then we need to train our youth to solve for global problems, because everybody will require people, and India will be the only place, specifically Kerala, because that's where the most progressive thoughts remain, will drive the shortage of the talent that they are going to witness in the coming years.
And it's a very, very good that you found out the gap between, they need the resource and we have the resource. And the story that you told about the nurse, I think it's the, everyone's story here in Kerala or in India. This is the story of every nurse that day. And I have seen them working hours for hours and still getting paid, underpaid. So
yeah, getting underpaid. And then when you ask them, okay, but why are you taking away nurses from India? Then the question is, then pay them more. But we cannot afford to pay them beyond a certain level, because that's the cost structure that we have in this country. A nurse in India versus a nurse in Germany, UK, US, Australia, the difference in salary, what's your guess? What will be the jump in salary?
I will take a
wild guess.
Maybe 1.5 lakhs.
Yeah, so the jump is roughly about 20x.
Oh,
So it's about 15,000, 20,000 here. It's about 3 to 3.5 lakhs there.
that's really great.
That's a significant jump in the salary that they are earning. So for a nurse, it's a complete change in lifestyle. They buy a different, I'm just making it very small thing. They go for different kind of vacations. They buy different kind of goods for themselves. They take a different kind of lifestyle for themselves and for their family. So when you make that shift, when it is not 30%, 40%, when you're talking not in percentage but in excess, then you imagine the cascading effect on the entire family that comes in. 2 generations later, family will be very different. And that's why the beauty of skilling, education and jobs is that it's not one lifetime change. It's all the lives that come after that in the next generation that changes significantly.
ഞാൻ എപ്പോഴും അതിശയിക്കുമായിരുന്നു എല്ലാവരും എന്താ ഈ മൈഗ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്നത്. Now I got the answer. I said what I was always wondering why people are migrating. Now I got the answer. And especially nurses. And why German? Maybe I'm guessing, I'm taking a wide guess. Maybe the cost of living will be different compared to India and Germany.
Yeah.
And it's very, I have heard that, and I have had personal experience that people are very, trying their best to crack the German language exams. Then why German?
Why German? See, Germany, as I said, Germany has a very, the average age is about 47, 48 years old. The number of nurses that are coming out are more than the number of nurses that are coming in. So the country does not have enough number of nurses available. The second thing is, the total population is now becoming older and older. So when there are more old people and fewer young people, nobody is looking after the older people. And therefore, the requirement of nurses are also increasing. So on one hand, you have an increasing requirement of nurses. On the other hand, you have lesser number of nurses being in the system because more retiring and less entry. So what happens is a massive shortage. So Germany claims, as per their statistics, that there is going to be a shortage of about 500,000 nurses. 5 lakh nurses will be missing in action in the next 5 to 7 years time.
Okay.
Now that's a significant shortage. And Germany, what had happened earlier, look, US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, great, phenomenal places, but because English is one of the most dominant languages, they are able to attract very good talent. Because for somebody in India, going to a UK is much easier because, look, we may or may not know English really well, but we all believe we know English really well.
Yeah.
So we all feel that, look, yeah, IELTS, we'll be able to do it.
We'll be able to
OET,
survive
yeah, we'll be able to
also,
survive.
yeah.
But Germany is not the case. So Germany's shortage has continued to increase consistently. So the German chancellor was here last year, and he said, look, India has got about 20,000, 25,000 visa every year. I'm going to 4.5x or 5x that. So they have made the total visa quota from 20,000 to 90,000.
Oh, that's
So it's a sudden one-time change because Germany is looking for the talent very quickly. And therefore there's a massive shortage. And that's why we felt that there's a problem that we can solve immediately. US, UK and English-speaking markets are very well served. So the competition is lesser on the German ecosystem. And I think in German, one of the big problems, as you said before we started recording, was language is a big problem.
Yeah.
It's not very easy to solve. And we felt using technology, using AI, using a bit of the German speakers, can we get them trained much faster? See what happens, right? I mean, you said that people can crack the examination. In India and also in Kerala specifically, when you're looking at migration, people have the tendency of just cracking the exam.
Exactly.
Ek baar examination is cracked, then I'm done. Then I can go home and sleep well. But the problem does not stop there. Once you crack the examination, then you land up in the country and then you realize you can't speak. And then you are struggling, then depression hits you, then you're not feeling good, then you want to come back to the country. And that's why you have to think about not what you should do to just solve the examination and crack the examination, but what will you do to be successful when you land up there? And that's the difference that we are trying to bring in our pedagogy and approach, that it should not be just about cracking the exam, but to be successful once you land
To
up there.
learn, actually learn the language, right?
You know what? Have you learned any foreign languages?
No, I tried to learn German. I just know Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen, yeah. Guten Morgen is good. Guten Morgen is the first thing that you learn. So in the German language, there's a hierarchy. Any language, there's a hierarchy. What's the easiest to learn in language? It's reading. The second easy thing is writing.
Okay.
The third, slightly more difficult thing is listening.
Okay.
And the most difficult thing is speaking.
Oh.
So it's reading, writing, listening and speaking. What happens with Indian nurses specifically, and specifically nurses from Kerala, is that they crack the examination, they're very good at reading and writing. Their speaking and the listening skills are not good, are not the greatest of the lot. The second challenge that we see is that the cultural alignment is not very good. I'll give you one example, like Guten Morgen. We'll say good morning, good morning.
Yeah.
But when you go there, you have to shout. You say, Guten Morgen!
Oh.
Because most of the people are older and they have hearing issues, and you have to be positive all the time. So nurses needs to be culturally trained to know what are the nuances that you need to follow in Germany, in the UK, in the US, etc. And that's where the differentiation comes in. We have to get out of the mindset that cracking examination, I'm done. Because you have to think after cracking what next. You don't want to land up in the country which is cold, different language, don't have friends and family, and you can't communicate well, you will land up in depression. And that's something that we have seen a lot of instances, cases of people coming back because of that. And that's the thing that we want to change in the process of teaching and pedagogy.
And there is this confusion because a lot of IT professionals are migrating to Germany. But for them, the language is not a barrier because they are not working in, as we discussed before the podcast. And people who are going, like, working in the public service, they definitely need to know the language because they have to communicate with the locals. And when it comes to comparison, they will say if they can go and survive there, then definitely I know English, I can survive. That's the misconception that is happening. And it's very good to know that you are giving any cultural, training to the people coming to you?
No, we are doing that, but it's a very good point that you mentioned. I want to touch upon this. Look, when you're going as IT, and when, let's say, you're going as a truck driver, when you're going as a manufacturing workers, you don't have to talk to individuals and human beings. You have to talk to the machine, and you're done with the work. But when you're a teacher, when you are a nurse, when you are a retail shop owner, when you are paramedical sort of professional, when you are working in in hospitality and hotel space, then you have to talk to human. You are not talking to a machine. So the word that you used earlier, the word empathy, becomes very important. And that's where the speaking skills become very important. So while in Germany, as you rightly said, people think, They don't have to learn anything. I will also not learn anything. I will
Yeah.
also end up being successful. Biggest misconception. You cannot get your visa if you don't know B2 level of German, which is the highest. So there's A1, A2, B1, B2. If you don't do B2, you will not get your visa there. Now, many people have gotten this score that in the B2 examination, you have to cross 60. Majority of the guys from Kerala has a score of 61.
Okay.
They just clear. They just clear and they say, okay, now I'm done. I'll leave with this thing. Now that's where the cultural part comes in, that you can cross the examination. Then what do you do about culture? There are three things which are fundamentally and culturally different between India and a German nurse. The number one thing is, in India, if I ask you, is it done? You will say, yeah, it's done. When we say yes, yeah, it's done, it is like it's either done or maybe done or not done.
Yeah.
We are not very sure and we just say it. Acha, will you do this? Yeah, it will happen.
Yeah.
And then you will start thinking how it will happen. What will I do? What do I do to make it happen? So Indians are good with jumping out of the plane without the parachute being ready, and will stitch the parachute when we are jumping down. A German will test the parachute 20 times before coming down. So culturally, rigor is very different between Indians and Germans. And that's one cultural thing that we have to teach them, because Germans are very process oriented. In India, we are very people oriented. Acha, you said, okay, yes, okay, I'll do it. And that's the first thing that we push them to learn, that look, you cannot say, yes, it will be done, unless you are 100% sure. Because once you say yes, it means yes. It does not mean no, it does not mean maybe, it does not mean, yes, I will think about it and I will let you know. And that's one thing that we sort of focus on, which is the rigor and the process part of it. The second thing is that you are dealing with a lot of older people. So the empathy levels are very different. In India, if you go to a hospital, you will see young folks, you will see children, you will see older folks, but it's a mix of people in the hospital. There you will see largely older people. Empathy becomes important. How do you talk to them? How do you get them? And their approach is very different, because they live in India. There's no such concept of old age homes as such.
Yeah.
Because we prefer parents living with the family. There they are all living independently.
It's comparatively less.
Much
but
less. It's
there,
slowly sort of coming up, but there it is a very common thing. So how do you deal with them? How do you have breakfast? So that empathy part becomes extremely critical. And the third one is also equally important, which is the fact that in India, if you have a problem as a nurse, you have a doctor to reach out to.
Yeah.
There the doctors come once in a day or once in a month or a week. So if the doctors are not coming, nurses are mini doctors. How do you become more confident in able to talk to a patient and give solutions in the process? So I think that cultural element of rigor, confidence, and the entire sort of journey of being empathy driven is where the cultural thing changes. I'll give a very small example, and again, not to sort of speak, we have a tendency that when we are landing up there, we put certain kind of oil in our body or in the hair.
Yeah.
And when you land up in a hospital, the other side of people, they say, look, we don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
And these small nuances needs to be taught for our nurses to carry the brand and ensure that we are the best, because we are not alone in the market. There's Philippines, there is Brazil, there is Africa, there is Morocco, there is Tunisia. All countries are eyeing for the jobs there. Okay. So we need to be comparatively much better, far superior than any other country out there.
And also, we talked about the language barrier. We talked about the cultural, differences and everything. And the next thing is, how do we end up in a good job, which is not unfair to the nurses? And how do you execute that? How do you make sure that happens?
I'll give one more challenge that exists. So I think language was one such thing that we spoke about. Language with culture, language with little bit of skills. And as I said, I did not mention, but our pedagogy is about 60-70% language. 30% is culture and 10% a little bit skills. But
let me add to that. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it is majorly because the advertisement that is happening, whatever is advertised to the nurses, it is it is easy to crack the visa checklist.
Process,
That's the conditions that are giving, not you need
how
to.
are you successful afterwards?
Yeah,
that's a big difference. And the other problem is, before I come to your next question, is that there's a one more step level problem wherein what is being told by the agencies is not what reality is. So what will an agent come and tell you? So let's say you come to me as a nurse saying that, look, Mayank, I want to go to Germany.
Yeah.
My first thing is, it's very easy. Don't worry. everybody is going, you will also land up, without telling them that it requires about 9 months, 6 to 9 months of learning German, and
Yeah.
German is not your first language or second language
It'll
or
be
third
fifth or
language
sixth.
or fourth
Yeah.
language or any language for you. And you have to learn from scratch. So it's not easy. It requires hard work. No, I will do it in 3 months. I have a course for 3 months. You cannot teach anybody German in 3 months' time. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. And even if you do, you will just not be able to clear the examination. The third thing they say, I have a lot of jobs and you should just do the job and finish it off. There are instances in Kerala where after the candidate, the nurse, has done the B2 level of certification, it is still taking them 6 to 9 months to get their visa because they don't have jobs on the other side locked in. So there's a lot of mistrust that ends up, or they will say, why don't you pay me 5 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees? I'll get it done. So what do you do as a nurse? You go back to your house, you mortgage the house, you collect the money, you pay the money to learn, but you realize I have done 9 months of training, I got my B2 certification, I've still not landed up in the place. Then comes the problem, what happens once you land up. So I'll come to that problem later. But this problem also has to be solved at the core root.
Yes, exactly.
People are not learning German for the sake of learning German. They are learning German to land up in Germany. And therefore, I think every candidate, via you at least, I want to talk to all the audience that do not assume that learning German is easy. You need to devote time and energy to learn German, because the quality of the demand is very high, the quality of lifestyle is very high, and therefore you will have to put in the effort. Nothing comes easy in the world. I mean, if there's a $5 note or $10 note or 5,000 rupees note lying here, you and I know it cannot lie there because somebody else would have picked it up. So there's nothing that comes for free in the process. And that's why for us, it is important to tell people that don't assume that it's going to be easy. The moment you decided, I will get up in the morning, I want to go to Germany, it will happen. Do not trust any agency that is just telling you that. And then coming to your problem that what happens once they land up.
Yeah.
Look, I think that's the place where you need to know what the job that you're signing up for. What is the job description? What is the documentation? What happens? Let's say in UK, it used to happen a lot. They will say you are coming in here, but now I cannot take you in because you still haven't cracked the license for driving, because I want you to work as an ambulatory nurse.
Okay.
So it was not very clearly mentioned in the job description earlier. So many a times you have to force the agency to show you the job description.
Okay.
Just do not go because there's a job of a nurse. What if the job description says that, okay, it's a job of a nurse, but you are going to work in a very remote town where there are hardly 5 people living and you have to stay there? Then the social circle gets very difficult. As long as the agency gives you the full transparency, and you should ask for the transparency, you should not just assume that a job of a nurse in Germany is going to be in Berlin, it's going to be in a fancy hospital, it's going to mean a lot of friends around me, but it does not happen. Sometimes you have to go to a smaller town, sometimes you have to go to a different location. So I think one of the key things that happens is people are not getting full clarity on what the job entails, and that's why asking for the JD upfront and when you're signing up the contract is significantly important. Now where the problem comes, these offer letters are in German,
Yeah.
so nobody reads it. But today you have a tool.
Yes.
Any scanner will give you the translation.
Translation, yeah.
Use technology, but get full clarity on what you're doing. And therefore, how do we differentiate, Aparna? What we do is we don't start with recruiting candidate first. We start with first getting a job. We have a
Okay.
team in Germany
Oh, great.
that is getting these jobs. Once the jobs are vetted, then we recruit candidates.
Okay.
So we lock a candidate to a job on day 0 only. But we don't tell the candidate that is locked. But even if you are anybody listening in, they want to find the job, what they're getting in, we will not tell you till the 3 months of your training.
Okay.
But we have a job linked. Once you have a job linked with the final candidate, then the process gets much smoother and there's no issue of any kind of fake promises that comes in the process.
That's really great to know. And in this digital era, how do people get fooled by all these agencies? I really wonder how, because I'm sorry, I'm not a smart person, I'm not a wise, I have been fooled also. No, I'm not saying like that.
Yeah.
But it's very easy compared to before, maybe 10 years before. It's very easy to like, double check everything, validate everything. As you said, we can translate the letters also.
Yeah.
So how this is
No,
happening?
so
Like,
the very good question that you're asking. Where does this happen more? I know that you were working with IT earlier,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Would this have happened in the IT industry?
Less, I
Very
guess. Yeah,
less.
yeah.
So when you go down in the hierarchy or the salary levels or the income level, if you go down one level lower, let's say to nursing, the propensity of it happening is more. If you go one more level down to, let's say, constructions and manufacturing, it will be even more. So the more lower you go in terms of, let's say, salary structure or the education level and qualification of the individuals, it starts happening a lot more. What happens when it comes to a job, many a times there's a fear of I should not question, because if I question, they will take away my job. So a lot of people are then get too subservient and say, okay, I'm not going to ask any question. Now he's taking me to Germany, let me go and I'll figure it out there only. Like our Indian tendency culture of saying, yes, I'll figure it out.
Exactly.
And then we don't ask the question, and because we don't ask the question, we don't work on ourselves to find the problem, and therefore look for trustworthy partners, look for partners who have the right credential, look for partners who can tell you that, okay, these are the kind of places where I have jobs, because you don't want to land up in a situation, because the moment you have learned B2 German, what will happen from your family? When are you going? When are you going? Tomorrow should you go? Day after will you leave? Because there's pressure from the family also for the nurse to land up in Germany, earn and send something back. So you should do your homework. You should spend enough time knowing what job that you are signing up for. When you are signing up the contract, read it up and translate it. As I said, there's enough tools available, but people are still scared, and people are not trained and taught properly how to manage this fake issues. And once they land up in that situation, it creates massive issues. And the other one is that our business model, while we charge something to the candidate, we charge we in the form of stipend or in the form of refund, scholarship, we pay the entire money back to the candidate.
Okay.
So if the candidate has paid me 100 rupees, I will say thank you very much for 100 rupees. I'll pay you 40 rupees in the form of stipend, and then I will pay you 60 rupees when you land up in Germany, hypothetically speaking. So I've taken 100 and I've paid 100 rupees back to you. I make money when the hospital or the healthcare institution pays me.
Okay.
So for me, there is no reason for charging extra to the candidate, because if I charge and make anything, I will lose the money coming from the recruiter. And therefore, our incentives are aligned to ensure that people are being pushed in the right direction. Because our model is very unique, that the candidate comes, pays us about, I think, 2 lakh rupees to join the program. It covers the language training and everything else. We give them stipend when they're learning with us. Because we get paid money from the recruiter. Once they land, so let's say we have paid them some amount of maybe 70,000-80,000 worth of scholarship. We pay them about 1,20,000 in the form of relocation stipend and scholarship. So once they land in Germany, they are landing with a credit card or debit card with 1.5 lakh rupees in the 1.2 lakh rupees in the debit card. So the entire money has come back. They got the education for free. The visa is free. Their flight tickets are free. The soft landing is free. The documentation is free. So everything else ends up being free. And we do so only because we feel that the nurses deserve the right career outcomes. And because we're making money from the recruiter, we don't need to charge the nurses in the process.
So all the expenses that is happening will be covered in this
In the
transaction.
process, correct. All the expenses plus you get the 2 lakh back also.
Okay. And as a company, you will also get the fair amount of
We get paid from the recruiter. So for us, we are charging the candidate because we want some seriousness when you're coming and learning.
Definitely.
And then we return the money back in different forms and different ways, only because we feel that the candidate, to learn German, you can't learn online, by the way. You have to leave your job and study.
Yeah.
For that,
I have tried that. I am a living example. We can't do that.
And you can't learn it on an app also. It's very difficult to learn it on an app.
Exactly.
I mean, my son is learning Spanish on an app, and he's constantly on, okay, I'm in this 24-day streak or 22-day streak, but he's not able to speak properly. He's just able to crack the game, because for him it's like a video game right now. So because of that, you need to spend time, and therefore we give stipend when a nurse comes and joins our offline program. The stipend allows them to cover for food, rental, and all those things. Once they land in Germany, we give them a preloaded debit card with about 500 euros locked in there, 500, 600 euros in the locked in there.
That's kind of show money that.
No, not
doesn't
just that,
mean-
but because when they land, if they want to buy something,
Okay,
buy
okay.
some grocery. Because the first thing we do once they land in Germany, take them to Indian grocery store.
Yeah.
This is where you will get all the stuff that you have to buy. And then we pay them another 600 euros in a due course of time. So the candidate receives the entire cash back. But the beauty is, while they have received the cash back, they don't. So they got the education for free. They do not even have to pay for the flights. That is also covered in this.
Okay.
They do not have to pay for the visa fees. They do not have to pay for examination fees. They do not have to pay for documentation translation. So everything, and that's why our model is slightly different, because we work with recruiters and we reimburse everything to the candidate without candidate having to go through any pain in the process. And that's why I cannot have 5 candidates joining and 1 candidate landing up in job, because then the recruiter will tell me, look, you fooled me.
Yeah.
So I'm much more liable to the recruiter, because that's where we are making the money at the end of the day.
Okay. So actually you have told a lot about the process in the conversation, but can you break it down how, once a candidate approaches you, what is
Yeah.
the process? Can you break it down?
So I think the first thing is, if the candidate is keen on going abroad, we check whether the candidate has the right background. So we are looking at BSc nurses and GNM nursing candidates, preferably experience,
Okay.
because then they have worked someplace.
Yeah.
And we look for one and most important thing is your willingness to work hard to learn German. We will ask different questions, but we will try to get a sense of whether you can learn German or not. The moment we see, but sir, will I get online learning? Then okay, fine, thank you. Why don't you be on the side, and we'll just proceed with somebody else. So there's a process of interview that we go through. Once the interview happens, there's a small test or small SOP that you have to submit. We then pass the CVs to our German recruiters. And the German recruiter will say, okay, these CVs look broadly right. You can onboard them. So then we onboard the nurse. The nurse has to pay, the candidate has to pay for the first 1 month. We ask them to do an online program.
Okay.
And we ask them to pay 10,000 rupees for that online program.
What is it about?
So this 1 month is about learning German.
Okay.
We ask them to pay 10,000 to learn German because we want to see whether you are really learning or not. Because some people pay the money and then they forget about it. And in the process, if they're not learning, we do not graduate them to an offline class.
Okay.
So after 1 month, the candidate gets a pre-placement talk by the German recruiter. The German recruiter talks to you and says, okay, this is the job, this is what you will have to do. You have to work from this time to this time, and then you land up in Germany.
So the description will be already given before.
Already given at
okay,
that
great.
time. And then the candidate says, okay, now I want to learn offline. So they come to an offline center. And in the offline center, they study for about 6.5 months or 25 weeks. 4 weeks of online, 25 weeks offline.
And you have one center in Kerala.
Yeah, we are opening up one
Open
center
it.
in Kochi
Okay.
itself.
Great,
So it's 4 weeks of online, 25 weeks of offline. And then they start studying offline in the center. When they are studying offline, we pay them stipend because they would have left their job. And during the course of this thing, they cross A1, A2, B1, B2. The moment they come to B1 and clear B1, they get interviewed for the job.
Okay.
And they get the final offer letter, and then the visa process starts to be applied. And the moment the B2 happens, the visa comes in, and then the documentation is sent through. So that's the full process. The only thing we'll need is people who are serious about learning German. The rest of the hard work we will do, but you need to show the commitment and the intent that you really want to learn German, because it's not an easy language to learn. It takes time and effort to learn at the end of the day.
Yeah. So that's really great to know about the entire process. And I would like to add how BorderPlus
Is differentiating?
Yeah.
No, it's a good question for us. Like, well, as I said, that we are not a language training institute. We are not a recruitment institute. We are not an agency. We are trying to cover everything under one umbrella. We have a team in Germany that is sourcing jobs. We control the entire language program ourselves. So we are not outsourcing language to somebody else. The language has got an element of language, culture, and skills. So one big differentiation is, under the single umbrella, we cover recruitment and language and cultural training completely. So we don't leave that, okay, I will work with somebody else to get you a job. I know for a fact that whenever the candidate is coming, what job they are getting into. So it's an integrated end-to-end solution rather than piecemeal solution. What happens in the market today is you go to a German language institute and says, teach me German. Once you're learning German, some recruiter will come and say, okay, you are learning German, why don't you join me? So there's not a single stop solution where you can go and get an end-to-end service. In our case, you get everything under one umbrella. Come, look for a job, we will give you the job. How to prepare for the job, we'll help you. How to learn language, we'll help you. How to go through the culture, we'll help you. Your visa, we will help you. Your documentation, we will help you. Your local recognition, we will help you. Once you land in Germany, the local landing support, we will help you. So it's completely end-to-end. And you don't have to go to 20 people to solve and get your problem solved. Our language product, the number 2 part, is a lot driven using AI today. So one of the problems, like Guten Morgen, as you said, you can speak once, but unless you practice multiple times, it does not happen. So we have created an AI bot where you can practice these words so that your pronunciation becomes better. And we put you in AI-led situation rooms where you can talk to a role play with a patient and practice your sort of German speaking skills. So your recruiter gets to hear your voice even before you have landed up in Germany. So it's fully built on AI and sort of developed from that context. And the third thing is the entire platform is built on a technology stack where you will have full visibility. You will know when you are applying, what you're doing at the later half. So I think having access to demand, having one-stop solution, creating an AI-led learning platform, along with a tech solution which covers the entire sort of, brings out the transparency is how we're looking at differentiating. In education, jobs and skilling, there's no one single answer. The single answer is trust, and the trust only comes when you control the full process and you don't do piecemeal approach out there.
That's really great to know. And in the process or in the journey of preparation to migrate, usually not just nurses, any professionals, they lack in preparing for the mental health that they have.
Yeah, it's a massive problem,
Yeah, because we are even I have been to Pune. Like I'm from Kerala, I have been to Pune, and I have had very hard
homesickness.
Yeah, and not just homesickness. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I don't even in India itself. I had so what will be what it will
so
be.
there are 2-3 things we do. As I told you, the moment you land, we have a team there who will help you with post-landing support. So we'll take you to a local store. We'll tell you where you can buy Kerala masala, where you can buy the Indian oil, where you can get the Parle G biscuit and no other biscuits out there. So then there is that sense. It will happen in bigger cities. Smaller towns, of course, is slightly difficult, but you can travel to a big city, carry your grocery bag and sort of get it done. So I think first thing is that familiarity with the Indian or the Kerala ecosystem that exists locally. But most importantly, Aparna, I think this is where the biggest difference comes in, is that you do need to provide a buddy to be with you. So the teacher and the trainers who taught you while you were in Kerala or in India or in any part of the country stays in touch with you when you're landing up there also. So we provide them support and services saying that, okay, what's wrong? Where are you struggling with? Help us out with this. Then we tell our local team in Germany, talk to this girl or talk to this boy because they're not able to cope up with the work. So for us, the journey does not stop once they land. The journey starts once they land, because we have to help them a lot when they are sort of being there at the end of the day. And the third thing that we do is we create local community in Germany. So that once you're landing, you don't feel alone. I landed, I'm very happy, but then I'm meeting with 5 other people. I'll give you one example. So when I landed, my first landing before I was just researching in Germany, I landed, it was very cold. I felt a little sick, so I went to a grocery store, the pharmacy. The first person I met was a nurse from Kerala. She was standing right there and she was very happy to see somebody from India coming and talking. She spoke about it and she said, I'm enjoying it, I'm doing this thing. And I said, what do you do after work? I said, I have a big community of nurses that I go out and hang out with regularly. And for that, you need to know how to speak German really well, because you will find some local, let's say, close group of maybe Indians and Kerala nurses in one place. But you also do need to talk to local German nurses also. How will you make friends with a Tunisian nurse? How will you make friends with a Philippine nurse? How will you make friends with a Brazilian nurse? For that, knowing German B2 is extremely, extremely critical. And therefore, you need to be confident to speak. And that's why I used one of the cultural pillar as confidence. It is very important you're landing up there. You should be very, very confident to speak to people, because once you start mingling, you start opening up a lot, and it becomes far easier for you to settle down.
It's very important while you're migrating or traveling to some other place to live for a long time. It's very important to take care of your mental health, and for that, confidence is very important. And to
And you will
land.
be able to speak to somebody else,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the most important thing. And the other one I'll tell you is that Germany has got one big advantage. Germany allows you to bring your spouse over the course of time.
Okay.
So many countries do not allow your partner to come in, like your husband to come in or your family to come in. Germany is one such country that allows the family migration to happen also. So once you are, let's say, a married nurse working, just got a job and you land up there, your husband can follow along with you. So it gives an advantage that you are not sort of straddling between two locations. Half of my life is in India, half of my life is in Germany. At least Germany gives you the sense of mental satisfaction that everybody is in Germany and you can have a conversation and get that thing done, which not every country allows. And that's where and then the kids' education, the kids' healthcare, everything is free because of being in Germany. And those are also equally important thing that plays the back of the mind for a nurse migrating. Am I going alone? Will I live alone for the rest of my life? Or do I have to come back to India or come back to Kerala for something? Or can my husband move in? That aspect also helps in the mental health a lot.
And the major comparison happens in this German Indian migration is that in India the cost of living is comparatively less to German. That is the concept that is happening. So even if you're getting paid a
Huge
bulk,
amount.
yeah.
How much will you save? Let me break it down for you. In India, how much do you think a nurse earns? 30,000 rupees,
Yeah,
25, 30,000 rupees. The cost of stay would be what? Maybe 15,000,
Yeah.
10, 15,000 rupees.
10 to 15, yeah.
They will, food and everything would be maybe another 5,000 rupees a month or 6,000 rupees a month. Then electricity, phone. You will have an EMI 100% because everybody who's working
Definitely.
buys a phone on EMI. So literally you're left with about 4 to 5,000. Best case, you can save about 7 to 8,000 rupees a month. So you have a 25,000 rupees salary and an 18,000 rupees expense. Let's say you land up in Germany, your salary is about 2.5 to 3,500 pounds. Let's take it's 3.5 lakh rupees. From the 3.5 lakh rupees, your in hand is going to be about 2.4 lakh rupees roughly, 2.4 to 2.3 lakh. Let's say 2 lakh rupees on average will be your in hand. Your total cost of rental and food, let's say housing would be about 600 euros, which is about 60,000 rupees. Your food, etc., will be 300 euros, that's about 30,000 rupees. So it's much more expensive than India. So you get to 90,000 rupees and another 300 euros for let's say utilities and internet and phone, etc. So that's about 1,200. That's about, let's say, about 1,20,000 rupees. So from 2 lakh rupees, it is going to be anywhere between 1 lakh to 1,50,000 rupees that you will be spending. So every month you save about 50,000 to 1 lakh rupees. Compared to that, in India, you earn 30,000 rupees and you can only save about 6,000, 7,000 rupees. So when your saving is about 50,000 to 1 lakh, you are sending 50,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees back to home, which otherwise you are not even able to earn. So your saving is 2 times to 3 times of your salary in India. So even after taking care of high taxation, after taking care of all the cost of living, you are able to save a significant amount of money that you can use to send back to the home itself.
And I'm not sure, but I have heard that the work atmosphere is also better compared.
How many hours do you think a nurse works here?
Here I have seen nurses working from 18 to 24 hours shift.
Yeah,
I have
full
seen.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have seen.
Yeah,
But in general, it should be 9 hours maximum,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I'm not
in
sure.
Germany, it's 37 and a half hours a week.
Oh, that will be. Oh, I'm very
7
bad in
hours.
math.
7 hours to 7 to
Oh,
7 and a
that's
half
great.
hours a day. If you work more than that, you get a warning. You cannot work beyond it. And from going above that 37 and a half hours, you get overtime. And if you start earning in overtime, that 50,000 to 1 lakh that I told you can go to about lakh and a half also. So people can start saving a lot more in the journey. And a lot of times when young nurses land up there, they spend a lot more time working because they believe that if I work for 3 more hours, 4 more hours, I'll be able to save something which I'll be able to send back or at least manage a better lifestyle in the country. So the big advantage, as you said, is the quality of lifestyle is much better. You are not supposed to work more than 37.5 hours in a week. So that's about 7.5 hours in a day.
That's really,
And then you just take a train, you land up there, you just sort of work, you go back home, and then you have a life after work.
exactly. And I'm not advertising to leave India, but if you find a better work opportunity, and you will be having education loans, EMIs and everything, and if you are able to do a work, have a life, and cover all your expense and save something, then that will be a
Yeah,
better
are you
option.
joining nursing program now? Right after this?
No.
Are you tempted to join a nursing
Yeah,
program and then go to?
that's correct. But I was always tempted to migrate
Yeah,
because of this, whichever field, especially for nurses, as I told, because the working hours have been very unfair. I have
Yeah.
seen nurses, because when we get admitted to a hospital, we will be able to see the nurses day and night. How is it possible?
Yeah. Every day you see the same nurse and
Yeah,
again coming back. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
I
when
was
I.
admitted for the first time in my life about 2 months back, and I met nurses, and again in Mumbai, and
You said you got
almost
admitted for
for
the
the
first
first
time.
time in my life. I
Oh
think
my
about two
God.
2 years back. So this was 8 out of 10 nurses were from Kerala.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So there's a culture of serving. There's a culture of giving back in some way or other. Out of those 8 people, all 8 of them wanted to migrate abroad because they all believe that the amount of effort that they're putting in,
Yeah.
they will earn a lot more.
Exactly.
Yes, for a short time. I'm not saying that, look, everything is great in the other country. Yes, you will feel a little lonely. There is going to be a sense of detachment.
Definitely.
But then, if you put in your hard work and effort, you will start seeing results, and you will build your friendship, and you'll build a different kind of social structure around that area, which will enable you to sort of get a lot more comfortable settling down in the new country.
Yeah, definitely. And also there is no pain, no gain. You have
Yeah.
to lose something to gain something. That's definitely it. You have to leave your home and everything. You have to go there, and you might be apart from your spouse for a little bit of time and all, but no
Yeah,
pain.
these things happen, and I think the most important thing is when you are in a nursing field, right, or a teaching field, like healthcare, education are two of my most closest subject to my heart. Um, the biggest problem that I see, which is the reason of starting up with BorderPlus, was that at least for that strata of society, why is there so much of lack of transparency? Why nobody knows how do I land up there?
Yeah.
Why do they end up paying 20 lakh, 30 lakh rupees to just trying mortgage their house, mortgage their land, and land up there with a very different expectation?
Yeah.
I think that it's important that we solve that problem right. We set the right expectations.
Yeah.
We create the right transparency in the process of people to see. And if you are being very transparent, you can tell them it's really bad on the other side, but tell them very clearly it's bad on the other side.
Yeah.
You tell them that this much, you will have to work for 37.5 hours. You will have to study for 8 hours a day to crack German.
Exactly.
If you do not set the expectation right, you are actually doing a disservice to a group of professionals who are doing so much for the society, but we are not able to give them back a right, transparent process of how they can take their talent and look at deploying them internationally.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you're doing this transparency while doing this. It's kind of a service also, because getting a better transparent migration, the transaction is very good for the nurses. It's very fair for them. And little bit out of the topic, I would like to ask. Upgrade is very famous for AI courses and everything.
Yeah.
And in India, what do you think is the scope of AI in this section of healthcare?
No, I think the two largest segment where AI is getting used is financial services and healthcare. I think AI, we have to just realize that AI is not a rocket science. AI today is like Excel sheet of yesterday or Microsoft Office of yesterday.
Okay.
As much you needed to learn MS Word, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, and so on and so forth, is what you need to leverage AI in your day-to-day working. So I think before I come to healthcare, every individual today needs to know how to use, leverage, and work utilizing AI to make themselves much more productive.
Yeah.
I think today a lot of your podcast question can be generated on Chat GPT, but your beauty comes in when you take those questions and then customize it and make it a lot more original for the people to ask. But I don't think that AI, first of all, that AI will take away anybody's job.
Yeah.
But somebody who knows AI may take away the job of a person who does not know AI. So you need to learn AI in your sort of regular sort of dealing and so on and so forth. Coming to healthcare, I think AI use case is one of the most advanced and one of the most extensive one. I think AI is getting used in drug discovery. AI is getting used in healthcare, from a AI nurse to an AI agent to AI sort of manager. But one area that I feel very excited about, because we are talking about nurses, is that a lot of administrative work that a nurse has to do. They have to write down, have you had the medicine? Did you finish this off? Once you are discharged, have you covered this? Those element of work, I think AI will take over. And we'll start seeing emergence of AI nurse for preclinical and post-clinical work. Before you come on board, you will get a call from an AI nurse who will ask, Aparna, have you had your medication? Did you finish off this? Have you done this work? And whatever that you answer will go back into the form. So once you are getting admitted for the surgery, everything has been set. Once you go back home after the surgery, you'll say, Aparna, are you following the diet plan? Have you finished this thing? Did you have these medicine? I think a lot of that part, which is repetitive work, I think AI will take over. And we'll see some interesting use cases and companies coming in that space, which will make the life of a nurse far better. So the 37.5 hours that they're spending in Germany is much more productive and focused on patient care than doing administrative work.
That's really great use of AI. And so I already told you that you are a very positive person. The energy that I get from you is very positive. And your success story, I'm very much familiar even before the even before we planned the podcast also, I was very familiar with your story, upgrade and everything. So can you share a little bit about your success story?
I'm not successful. I'm just trying to do something.
At least
No. But I think fair point. I come from a very, I grew up in a very small town in Assam. I think where I grew up, there were not more than 800 families living. So it's a very small town. I did not have any awareness. I did not know what engineering is, what management is, what does MBA means. Starting a company was a taboo because in my house, if you talk about business, it would be seen as unethical. That business is only done by people who are unethical because you cannot do business if you are. So getting a job is the only thing in my life that was sort of that I was trained on. But look, I think life takes you different places. And I think I was lucky enough to get exposed to various things during the course of my journey. And while I've been building that, there are a couple of things that have always helped me in sort of staying true to what I learned. And I think a lot has to do how I grew up in Assam. A lot has to do my core foundational years of my education at my engineering college. I think that 2-3 things that stayed with me. One was that I think you are doing this for a very long time and you are sort of building your own audience network. One of the most important thing is just to show up all the time. I noticed that when we were starting the podcast, we had 11 o'clock shoot. You were here exactly at 10:58. And as an entrepreneur, as a professional, you have to always show up. No matter what happens, you have to show up. And I think there's no substitute to hard work. And everybody has to do the hard work and engage in that process overall. The second thing for me was outside of hard work, because my parents have always showed me that you have to work hard. No matter what happens, just work hard. And that has stayed always with me. The second thing that I've learned, again, this comes from the background that you grew up in, that, and when you landed up at IIT, you realize that everybody around you is very, very smart. So I took that learning that you have to be always very humble and grounded, because there are far smarter people around you. And I think with the background at my house, as well as what I gathered there, I've always found that, look, whatever happens, you have come from a very small town. You don't have too much to sort of carry as a baggage. So just be grounded in whatever that you're doing at the end of the day. And the last one for me is whatever that you do, enjoy. Because you don't get to, with what you're doing, and at least in what we do in education and skilling, it's an impact work. And if you do this, you can be very serious about doing it. But if you start enjoying it, you start really loving what you're doing. So I think I'm trying to find a space of comfort where, while I'm working hard, while I'm sort of creating something, I want to enjoy it with the team that I'm working with the people that I'm working with. Because if you're not enjoying it, what's the fun of doing it?
Yeah, exactly.
And those 2-3 things have stayed on and has helped to explore various things and get exposed to various things also.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying those words. And it's really good that you are doing this. Like, you are trying to change the landscape of whatever gap is that is happening in the migration process of nurses, especially from Kerala. There are a lot of nurses, and there are most of them are trying to migrate. And
Yeah.
whatever you're doing is really, really good. And thank you so much for being
No, thank you
here
very much.
and sharing all this. It's very like an informative and knowledge, and it was very a learning curve for me. So thank you so much for being here, and please keep on doing whatever you're doing
Oh,
right now.
no,
Thank you.
thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Now, thank you is called Danke in
Danke.
German.
Yeah.
Yes.
I learned that.
Thank you very much. No, I really appreciate you taking your time.
Yeah. Thank you so
Thanks.
much.